Okay, so I am joined today by Michael. Michael, say your last name for me so I don't butcher it.
Langiewicz. Langiewicz. It's spelled like Langiewicz, but it's pronounced Langiewicz.
Langiewicz.
Mhm.
Okay, got it. Langiewicz. That's cool. So I'm super excited, Michael. Thank you for joining me from your beautiful library living room. And we were just catching up a second ago, touching base before we started, and we were talking about legacies and the beautiful books that you have um, purchased to leave for your daughter. And you made a comment about legacy that touched me, and I would love for you to say it again.
Well, what you had said was, you told me the story of a woman who had done a similar thing, and had spent her life notating the books so that it would be a beautiful, beautiful, lasting love letter to her daughter. And then her library burnt down when her house burnt down. And I said, yes, the right way to truly leave a lasting legacy is the nurtured heart way, where you leave it as the inner wealth that you've placed inside their hearts. That's the true lasting legacy that we can do.
Right.
And I'm committed to that. I know it sounds like a nice something to embroider on a pillow, but I'm absolutely committed to that as being the truth.
Mm. I love how you said, leave the legacy in their heart where it's safe.
Where it's safe.
Right? No house burning down can take that.
No thief can break in.
Right? Wow. Okay. So Michael is a Nurtured Heart Advanced Trainer since June of 21. He is, if you don't mind me saying, because it's part of your story, he's 72 years old with 2 grown children and 5 grandchildren. Michael has a BS/BA in psychology, sociology, admin of justice, because you just didn't know what you wanted to do when you grew up.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful diversity that all really comes together. Michael hails from Pittsburgh, where he is now retired from a career in sales and marketing. He is blissfully married to Annie. I love that. How long have you and Annie been married?
20 some years.
Nice.
Some years.
Okay, there's a good story there, I'm quite certain.
Not
Michael,
good, not a good enough story.
really?
Well, it's like the Amish say, too soon, old, too late, smart. So she's not my first wife. She's not the mother of my children. And in the process of the difficulties of life in general, I, like so many other, ended up divorced, but was fortunate that at 50 years old, I was lucky to meet Annie. We were lucky to meet each other. So,
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. Michael, can you hold one quick second? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I have a similar story, so I love to hear that. And that's not what we're here to talk about, but we could talk about that a lot, I'm sure. So you are currently working in your retired life in an after-school program with 30 kids, primarily K through 4th grade, though there are a few middle schoolers as well. Several of them with special needs, including, do you pronounce it trisomy or trisomy?
trisomy, but it's Down syndrome. It's just
Uh-huh.
another description for Down syndrome. We have several Down syndrome kids. Probably got 10% to 15% of them would be diagnosable under the DSM for ADHD or RAD or ODD or any of those designations.
Yeah. And ASD, autism spectrum as well.
Yep. 2 autism spectrum. Yes.
Wow. So I love this. You are an active amateur musician. You play the horn, the guitar, and the piano.
Correct.
That's amazing. And you're also a voracious reader, as evidenced by your background. And your favorite composer is Brahms. I'm hoping to circle back to that at the end of our interview. So here's what I first heard from you, Michael, and why I fell in love with your story and, you know, pushed you to do this kind of random interview. So you replied to a comment, I think maybe something that I had made or someone, anyway, I saw a comment of yours in the Facebook group where you said that you discovered Nurtured Heart at around the age of 70 or something and healed your relationship with your adult daughter. And so much of NHA materials are, you know, a little more heavily focused on younger kids. And there are, you know, this sort of feels like a smaller group of us that come to this a little bit later. And we come to it with, you know, maybe more damage done, more heartache, more, you know, the ramifications of that can look really scary and feel terrible. And sometimes it feels too late. And so when I saw your comment, I was like, there's a beacon of light. I need more information. I have so many follow-up questions. And so anyway, here are my follow-up questions. I'm going to include this quote from you in another comment that you made to me. And I love this quote, and I just want it on record. You said that your daughter is off the charts ADHD, according to the DSM, though I did not know this until 2 years ago. Consequently, my parenting was counterproductive, and I did much damage to her. We are now best friends after open warfare for nearly 40 years. I just think that says it all. We could almost just wrap up. No. Okay, so I have so many questions now. Can you describe what that counterproductive, you know, to the degree that you're comfortable, what did it look like before? You seem like you've got a big heart and good intentions. And so I'm sure you were doing your best as a parent when she was younger.
When she was born in 1980, so this was well before any understanding of what we call ADHD. At this point, she would have been categorized just as a strong-willed child. I was at that time managing a small Christian bookstore in Dallas. And I was reading, and she was my first child. So we were totally clueless. We were separated from grandparents because I'm from Pittsburgh, but we were in Dallas. And so I was doing the homework, the necessary research to understand how to be a good parent to a strong-willed child. So you had James Dobson's stuff. His book was The Strong-Willed Child. And there was another book called Children Are Wet Cement. There's lots and lots of Christian-based books and other stuff that was out there too on how to handle a strong-willed child. And it was all the traditional methodology except notched up. So it meant punishment. It meant the attempt to eradicate these behaviors through negative reinforcement. It meant setting very strict boundaries, very strict rules, and holding them to it. Just very brutal stuff. So in retrospect, in light of all of this, regardless, actually, the good intention may have been worse. I mean, had I left her to her own devices, it probably would have been healthier. But being a engaged, conscientious parent, I was determined to give her the very best, which turned out to be the very worst. So from my point of view, and I say this absolutely truthfully and without any justification, from my point of view, it's child abuse. I was an abusive father, not knowing it, but it makes no difference whether you know. If you intend to be abusive, yes, then you're morally culpable. If you don't intend to be abusive and you still do the same amount of damage, what difference does it make? What difference does it make? So I left her horribly, horribly bruised. And then we were in a church that validated this form of parenting. And who can gainsay God? So I had God backing me up on all this too. And it was dreadful. So what I ended up doing was crushing her spirit, and by design. By design, you crush her spirit, you crush this foolishness that's in her heart, you do all of this stuff so that you can rebuild her into this image that you have. It's absolute nonsense. And again, that's the only That was the only methodology we had. That was the only methodology we had. Now, it's not because it was Christian based, because all of the other stuff was just as bad. And I've gone back and looked at all of that. It's just that traditionally that's what you did. And I totally crushed her spirit. And in about 8th grade or 9th grade, she got to the place, she was also in a Christian school. She got to the place where she folded. So she decided that she would go ahead and take on her persona. She'd construct a new persona that was socially acceptable. That became her persona. She had no idea who she was on the inside. And predictably, as soon as she hit high school, got out of high school, hit college, there was no longer these external controls. She went crazy because she had no internal regulation. The only thing she had was external regulation. So once she hit the college scene, of course, she went into the self-abuse and the alcohol and all of that, because everything was based on external validation at that point. And that's how she could get it. So this went on. She became an alcoholic. It was just dreadful. I couldn't help her. I realized something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. And then I had a grandchild who was just as intense. And I thought, we're not going down this path again. So all I knew was Mr. Rogers. So I did Mr. Rogers thing, not knowing what I was doing, but hoping for the best. And in the process of then my grandchild being diagnosed, and of course, being put on Adderall and all this kind of stuff, and me just going crazy about that, doing homework, study, I fell upon Howie.
Wow.
By the grace of God, I fell upon Howie, and I read his book, Transforming a Difficult Child, and immediately I understood. I immediately saw everything I had done wrong. Everything, absolutely everything. So that was 2.5 years ago or so, and since then I've just been 100% on board with Nurtured Heart, because I understand that what it is it's the necessary ingredient to make healthy people, to make healthy children. You have to be able to see them in the image of God. They're made in the image of God. We're all made in the image of God. And if you don't reinforce that image in them, if you let them grow without seeing that in themselves, they're going to accept other people's notions of themselves. And if you have an intense kid, which is what kids we're talking about are, all they do is get corrected. So everything, their full definition of themselves, their full identity of themselves, it's reflected through the significant people around them, is they're a problem. And they learn to embrace that, and eventually that creates the self-loathing, which creates big problems down the road. So yeah, I'm a big believer.
That was a powerful retelling. I am so grateful for your humility in sharing that story, because I think that there are a lot of us, myself included. I mean, I was raised the way that you've described. I mean, to a certain extent, I'm not sure exactly, but from the best intended loving.
Yes.
It's so heartbreakingly sad that the norm is so damaging. And I parented very differently. I was going to, be a completely different parent than how I was raised, and and was, delivered a very wonderfully intense child out of 2 children. And your description of the energy that you put toward it, the eagerness, the commitment and dedication to doing it right, how that is almost worse. I've never had that recognition before, and it is so spot on. I doubled down, and I doubled down again, and I was going to literally figure it out and be the absolute best parent, and screwed it up worse and worse and worse every time I doubled down, until I found, the Nurtured Heart approach.
It's not our fault. It's the tools we're handed. It's all we know. It's what we grew up with, and it's all we know. It's not a matter, it's again, Howie says this all the time, it has nothing to do with placing blame. It's you have to have the right tool for the right job. And if you don't, I mean, the truth of the matter is these kids will make you crazy. They will push you against the wall. They will push every button until you get the gift of desperation.
Right.
I see this with parents. I'm thinking, I'm telling them about nurtured heart and how I can transform stuff. And I can tell whether or not they've gotten there yet. They haven't panicked yet. They haven't gotten to the place where nothing is working and they're totally desperate. And that's when you suddenly can hear. That's when you open your ears and you can hear. But this is not to say that these kids are easy. They're not. They're horrible. I mean, we say, let's have a send her back to Jesus day, you know. And it was like she drove us, both of us, both of my completely to distraction. Everybody in the family said, this is the worst kid I have ever seen. This is the most challenging child I have ever met. It was like this everywhere we went. We had no solutions, none, zero, zip, nada. And now looking back on it, I realized that everything I did simply reinforced, because that's where she got the juicy energy.
Yep.
Where she got the juicy energy. And this is energy-based stuff. This is all energy-based stuff. And as we reflect our evaluation of the behavior, which then is interpreted as our evaluation of the child, they embrace that. They don't have a vision of themselves, except that they know they want to go this way. They have a tornado brain. They're bouncing off the walls. They demand all this energy and all this emotional stuff. But we're reflecting back to them, no, you're the problem, you're the problem, you're the problem, you're the problem. And if they ever believe that, that's the worst thing they can believe. Thank God. Rachel was tenacious. I mean, she fought me tooth and nail for years and years and years and years and years and years before I finally broke her. And now, thank God, you know, she's tenacious enough that she's grabbed onto nurtured heart now, and we work nurtured heart all the time and stuff. And it's been this has not been a transformation only in terms of our relationship. This has been the pathway to healing. I mean, she was on psych drugs. She was an alcoholic. I mean, this was all straight down. This is what self-loathing does, straight down. And I discovered nurtured heart, and I thought, I know where I'm going now. And Howie says, notch up, notch up, notch up. I just notched that thing at the overdrive and warp drive, and off we went. And 2 years later, it's just.
Wow. Okay. I want to dive very deep into the last 2 years, but let's start with the bright, you know, I was going to say future, but the bright now. The bright now. I like that. Just coined that. What's your bright now look like?
I live in the bright now. One of the things that Howie helped me to do, along with other things, he helped me understand that what is happening right now is more than our perception, that our perception is not the big picture at all, and that there's all this stuff going on around us, and we choose how to perceive it. And it is through our perception that then we create the future. It is through the transformation of today's decisions that the future is created, and how we see today determines what happens tomorrow. So if we look at the truth of today through the nurtured heart lens, which is through the lens of grace, if we see it that way, then today is always bright, because today is the stuff we make tomorrow out of. So ask yourself, what kind of tomorrow do you want? Well, then what are you doing today? So today is always bright, because the truth is there's so much stuff happening. There's so much stuff happening. So where are you putting your attention? Where are you putting your energy? Where are you investing? Because you will get a return on investment depending where you invest. We will always find what we seek. There will always be evidence for what we have determined that we're looking for. So if we're looking for the worst case scenario, we will always find the worst case scenario. But if we're looking to say, what's the truth of this matter? What's going right? What's not going wrong? What direction are we moving in? If we look at it that way, we find that. And that becomes a
self-fulfilling prophecy.
A spiral up, a virtual thing. You know, it's not a, what do they call it? A vicious cycle. It becomes a virtuous cycle. So
Wow.
it cycles upwards. So it's real. So that's where I'm at.
Wow. You need to write a little coffee table book of quotes. When this recording is done, I'm going to send back to you all of these very pithy, powerful, potent quotes. I'm loving them. Okay,
Powerful, potent. I
so
like that. Powerful, potent. I love it.
yeah, well, you got it. Okay, so what does give us a taste of the, dreamy afterlife. So what does the life look like now? What are your relationships, your interactions? What's a day in the life or a week in the life look like with you and your daughter now?
There's still lots of challenges. There's still lots of challenges from the standpoint that nothing is off the table. No conversations are off the table, no questions, no hurt. We believe that pain is the undeniable red flag toward healing. You don't run from pain, you run toward the pain. So nothing is off the table with us. So we have lots of talks. We have lots of heart-to-heart talks. We're extremely, extremely honest with each other. But the significant part, Bridget, is there's this flow of, how can I characterize? There's a flow of love. It's almost palpable. It's almost palpable that there's this flow of love. So no matter what's going on, we both now understand that we're coming from the same place. It has nothing to do with her behavior anymore. It has everything to do with her identity as somebody who is created, handmade by God, and that is correct and is valid and is real and is essential. There's only one of her, just like there's only one of you and there's only one of me. If I don't do me, who's going to do me? You don't do you. Who's going to be Bridget? If she doesn't do Rachel, who's going to do Rachel? So all I do is everything is based on finding that authentic place of who you really are, what God has created you to be, and allow that to work through you. So my whole job is to facilitate that as much as I can. Her job is to search diligently and valiantly for who she was and then bring that out again. So, and I remind her all the time of, do you remember when you were little, when you did this and no, you were not a timid child. You were straightforward. You were strong. You were courageous. You knew what you wanted. You were in people's faces. That's who you were. That's who you really are. That's who you really are. So our relationship is just, we're like this now. It's just real nice. And it's real, it happens with everybody. You can do this with anybody. I mean, you don't have to say, okay, now I beat the crap out of all my friends and now I'm going to see if I can fix it. You can use these principles in every single relationship and it does the same thing. You watch people just light up like light bulbs. Nobody says these kinds of things to them. Nobody does. I was talking to a guy and he said, what's this whole nurture heart thing? And I said, look, the best thing I can do, Sam, I'll tell you. And I laid him on. He said, how do you even know all this about me? I said, because you have showed it to me. You have showed it. It's incontrovertible evidence. You have demonstrated that this is who you are. Did I say anything untrue? No, it's all true. But how do you know? Because you showed. How come you see it? Nobody. I'm telling you, man, this stuff is potent. It is potent stuff. It's powerful, powerful stuff. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. If you want to transform lives, get your tongue under control. Start using it proactively. It's powerful, powerful stuff, Bridget. I don't know how we got this. I don't know where it all came from, but I can tell you it works. It works on everybody.
Wow, boy. I've was sold on Nurtured Heart Approach when I started it on a Tuesday at the end of August, and the following morning I was in a different house. We had a very remarkable overnight transformation. And I've been, 100%, 110%, 1,000% in, right? Just, I've gone to 2 CTIs. I'm an advanced trainer now. I'm just as in as is possible. And it still just sneaks up on me, both the beauty, the truth, the epiphanies, and all of this is to say, I'm just feeling very moved by this conversation. So I hope you don't mind if I just weep my way through it.
No, I'm 70 years old. Everything comes out my eyes nowadays. Annie, we call it the water passage home.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny. Okay, so so does she live near you? Do you?
Yeah, she's not that far away. She lives, she used to live in Tucson. She was out west for 10 or 12 years, 15 years, maybe. She moved back to Pittsburgh. Just her life had completely fallen apart around her. She moved back to Pittsburgh about 6 or 7 years ago, and she lives about 10 minutes away now. So she's nice and close at hand. So we see each other. Well, I take her to her. She sings in it's a hoot. She sings in one of these Sweet Adeline choirs. Oh, and I mean, if you want to get your heart shredded, go to a Sweet Adeline rehearsal sometime. These women are just, man, they're angels. I don't know why they're not floating around. I mean, but it's just to listen to them sing and stuff. I think, oh my God, I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven. So she goes to the Sweet Adeline choir. So I take her to that. So I'm with her all day on a big part of Tuesday. I'm with her most of the day on Sunday. We go to church together and stuff. I'm trying to help her sort out the abusive relationship she has in terms of her understanding of God, which is, what else would she have? And so yeah, she's close at hand, and yeah, she's still challenging as hell. Oh my God, she still will put most people over the top and stuff like that. But that's just, yeah, that's what I want to see. I said, Rachel, this is what I want to see. I want you to push me to the edge, because this is who you really are. This is who you really are, which is what makes you so great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's a $1 million question.
Yeah.
Could you live with her again right now? Or
Yes, I could. Yes, I could.
without the magic wheels falling off, without getting triggered too much, getting too frustrated,
See, that this is the big $1 million question, Bridget. The question isn't, can I live with her? The question is, do I understand resets? That's the $1 million question. The change is not in her. Change is in me. The change happens because I know how to reset. I know how to reset, not be offended, to ask myself what's really going on here. I mean, if you have a little kid who's running all across the house trying to, tearing open cabinets and stuff like that, and you scream and yell because, hey, stay out of the cabinets. If you don't understand they're hungry, you're not going to understand why they're tearing open cabinets. So it has nothing to do with behavior. It's what's underneath the behavior, what's driving the behavior. So if you ask yourself that question, if you reset yourself long enough to ask that question, refuse to respond to behavior, but to respond to the motivation and the truth underneath the behavior, then you solve that issue, which then solves the behavioral issue, obviously. So could I live with her? I don't think we would make great housemates, but I think we could live together fine. I think we could live together fine. She wears me out. Oh, these kind of people they just wear you out. They will wear you out. They want so much energy, and that's why they're so great to be around. But they can wear you out. So,
oh gosh, that lands for me on every level. Yeah, thank you. So what is her relationship with NHA?
She loves it. She loves it. She uses it. She'll tell me, she goes on when she shops and stuff, she uses on clerks and stuff like that. And, now everybody just lights up as soon as she walks into the store, and all her best friends are these clerks from the store she goes to and stuff, because they all want to talk to her. And yeah, she uses it on everybody too, and she just says It's amazing. But the thing she doesn't know, this is what's so funny about this. And we don't know this when we start either. We think, oh, we're going to go ahead and use this method so we can fix our crazy kids. Ha ha ha. It's the method fixes the crazy parent. And because the crazy parent is fixed, then they can start helping the child with stuff. And so all she does is she knows that the stuff works. It's powerful stuff. It's powerful, powerful stuff. So yeah, she's all in. I've been trying to talk to her to, to work with me as an assistant and stuff like that, but she doesn't really want to do that, but she likes doing it.
At what point did you, after you, stumbled upon NHA, at what point did you tell her about NHA versus doing your own work and seeing if it would work? And, when did you kind of
immediately? I am an evangelical about everything. If I discover soap I buy it for everybody. So it's everybody is entitled to my opinion. So it's so I'm a very noisy person. And when this was happening with my granddaughter, I was pitching it like crazy to anybody who would listen and stuff. So she was, Rach was in on that whole loop and all of that. So I was immediately very, very, as soon as I read the book, it made the quarter hit the slot immediately. I immediately saw what it was all about and immediately began practicing, reading everything and get my hands on it, how he wrote. And I did a bunch of other stuff because prior to finding Howie stuff, I went through all of the existential psychologists. I went through, Rogers and Maslow and even people like Lang. And I was just reading everything I could get my hands on regarding the state of psychology, the state of psychiatry, biopsychiatry, the whole 9 yards. So when I found Nurtured Heart, I thought, oh, obviously, of course. And then started using it and then saw how it linked together with everything else I understood. I pitch it to everybody.
Yeah.
I pitch it to everybody. I give away tons and tons of books. I give away a lot of the All Children Flourishing because it's the one that doesn't say difficult in the title. It's too bad that, although it's true, how we use transforming the difficult child. And until you've reached that point of desperation, you don't believe you have a difficult child. That's where we can't accept that, But so I give away tons and tons of All Children Flourishing people.
I was just in a meeting with Howie where he was talking about, he loves that title, right? It's essentially the same content, right? And he loves that title, but it doesn't sell.
Right.
What sells is our fear and our panic and our desperation. Right. And the title's been updated to the intense child from the difficult child, which I think is kind of a nice step in the right direction. But it's, but I like gifting.
We're key to solve problems. We're key to find a problem. We're key to look at life as a threat. So we want to identify threats and neutralize threats. That's what we do. So everything sells by offering a threat and then a solution to a threat.
Right. Oh, sad.
Yeah, it is.
That's another conversation. Okay, so when you first discovered NHA, did you have a big apology session? How did you, step into the humility, the new space, the, making amends for, the prior?
We had already done all that. We had already done that. She found her way into AA. So we had already done the amends thing, the apologies, and I was not fudging on my part. I was not fudging. I don't believe that good intentions buys, get you off the hook for your actions. So it took her a while to understand that her mother and I had good intentions and had the best of intentions, and we were trying to do our best, but we didn't have the right methods and all of that. So she understands that. So we had talked about that in the past a fair amount, but there was no building, there was no basis upon which to build a relationship. She was still who she was. I was still who I was. We still related on a head-to-head basis. So she would say something and I would fix her. I would try to fix her. She would resist. And then I'd say, well, this is the problem. So it was that, you know how that goes. It's like this constant thing. Nobody's getting through. It's the same dynamic. It's the same dynamic, the same childhood dynamic. So now it's just with adults. So it was the same dynamic. So it was learning how to get through that dynamic. And what I did was I did a lot of just not responding. Just don't take the bait this time. Just think about it and then try to find, do a reset myself. I learned to reset myself as much as I possibly could, because you do 20 years or 30 years of your normal thing. You've got that loop in your brain. All that neurobiology is built. That machine is built, and you're not going to turn that machine off. You have to rebuild a new machine, So you have to make new paths for your feet, mean that you have to start doing something. So you have to start not only thinking a different way, but you have to start responding in a different way. And that took a while. But I just started disciplining it's just discipline. It's like, how do we learn anything? How are you going to learn to play an instrument? You play the scales. I don't like playing scales. Who cares what you like? You learn to play an instrument or not? So what do I care? Truth confronts before it comforts. So I'm confronted with this stuff. I'm thinking, I have to do this. I just have to learn this skill. I've got to learn this skill. So I just started working on this skill. So.
Boy, your last line there, truth confronts before it comforts. Whew, wow, that's powerful.
It's a hard lesson.
Yeah, it is.
It's a hard lesson. We want a soft landing.
Right.
You don't want a soft landing. You want a hard landing. You don't learn anything in a soft landing. You want a hard landing. Right. Suffering is a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift to wake you up, to drive you out of the sandbox of self, to wake you up. So thank God for it. But yeah, I just had to learn. I had to learn the method. I learned the method and I applied the method. I applied it badly. But you can't think in it. You can't think in those terms. I think, how can I say something nice? She's driving me crazy. I'm going to strangle her is what I want to do. But you start thinking, wait a minute. What is she not doing? What is she? Can I see her through the eyes of grace? Can I look through the eyes of God at her instead of my own stupid eyes? Is that possible? I guess it probably is. How do you do that? Well, you just do it. You do it by opening your mouth and saying those things that you think, I'm not even sure if I believe any of this, but I'm going to say it because it's true. It has to be true. How can it not be true? It has to be true. So you just learn the skill. You just learn the skill. And then as you learn the skill, then your vocabulary starts opening up. It just starts opening up. And then you see more stuff. You say, the more you look, the more you see. And the more you see, the more you see. And then you think, hey, I'm heading this way. That was a great path. I'm not on that path anymore. I'm not going that way anymore. And that's, you just learn the skill. That's what I tell my new people. I say, look, forget the fact that this feels uncomfortable. It's supposed to feel, if it doesn't feel uncomfortable, it's not working. If it doesn't feel uncomfortable, you're not doing it. It should totally bend your brain. It should turn you upside down and shake you. That's what it's supposed to do. It has to do that. And then eventually we get comfortable surfing the storm. Oh, look at these waves. What's the big deal? Haven't you learned how to surf yet? Surf the storm. It's more fun. The power's there. Ride it. And so that's
one of my favorite quotes in life. One of my absolute favorite quotes is, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf.
Yes. And you better learn to surf or you're going to drown.
Right.
Have any choice. So you might, once you realize that your back's against the wall, this whole thing that life is about being pain-free, it is not. Life is brutal stuff. So as long as you're not running from the pain, you're saying, yeah, I just need some skills. I'm just going to learn some skills. This is going to be brutal for a while. I'm being trained. All right. That's all it is. But then when you get good at it, you think, I tell Rachel all the time, I said, this is for warriors. This is not the pansy path. This is the warrior path. This is a path. This is a brutal path. And I said, the key to this, the key to being a warrior, the thing that's so cool about being a warrior, it doesn't mean that you're good at fighting with your sword. You have these skills. The war is won before you even draw your sword, if you're a skillful warrior. The war is won inside your own brain and inside your own mouth and inside your own heart. That's where the war is won. And once you get skillful at that, you don't have problems anymore. You don't have challenges anymore. You just think, oh, this is normal stuff. But what's next? What's next? Send somebody else. I mean, at the daycare, it's like, as soon as I started, I said, who are the worst kids in this place? Who are the ones who are driving everybody the worst? Give me the list of your craziest kids. And that was 2 years ago. So I have all the craziest kids, and, you know, they're all doing fine. They're all doing fine now. It's fun. Isn't it? Don't you think it's fun?
I do. I'm just
Aren't you astounded that this stuff even works?
astounded. I am absolutely astounded that this works,
Why does it work?
right?
It's grace. It's grace in action. All it is it's the dynamic of grace being set to a method that works. I've never found a impartation of grace that worked as simply and as elegantly. It's an elegant impartation of grace. That's all it is.
Simply and elegantly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long did it take for your ship to start turning to where you were like, okay, we're on an
As far as
absolute.
Rachel goes, it took a while because she wasn't sure. After 40 years, like, okay, so Mike's found this new dandy thing now he's going to try for a while. You know, he's going to try this new thing. You know, what's he hopped up on now, you know? So it's like, all right, you try this out. Because she would say, oh, Dad, you're giving me that nurtured heart stuff. I said, I am. I am. But it doesn't change whether it's true or not. You can call it nurtured heart. I'll call it nurtured heart. I call it truth. So, but you can't, there is no weapon formed that can prosper against love. It can't be done. So the question is, okay, but I thought I was loving my kid all this time and stuff. How come well, you didn't have the right methodology. You didn't have the right stuff. You didn't have a right way to encapsulate your energy into words that were effective, that would reach a heart. So now you know how to take what you feel on the inside, put it into words, send it down line, and land it in somebody's heart. They have no defense. There's no defense. So she can say, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. I know what it doesn't matter. I don't care if you know what I'm doing or not. It will still work. It still works. That's what's so cool about it. You can't get away. I'm going to say nice things to you and you can't get away. Nah. All you can do is avoid me. And people can't because they love it.
Oh my gosh, we all love being seen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There's no
Yes.
escape. I love that. Okay. How would you describe NHA to a new person in a short elevator ride? What's your 30 to 60-second pitch?
If somebody actually asked me the question,
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say something. I'm so glad you asked me that question. I love the fact you're interested. I love the fact we're standing here just talking about this. We're trying to talk about how to make people happier and better and relate better to each other. Do you realize how wonderful that is? Do you realize what that says about you? You realize that says that you want more for yourself. You want more for the world. You want more for me. Do you realize what a tremendous, tremendous thing that is to have that kind of thing reaching out to others? That's what I would do. I just do a nurtured heart thing on them. You can't explain it. You just have to experience it. You know, how do you explain what an orange tastes like? Give me an orange.
Oh, touche.
That's what I struggled with that for the longest time. Well, Howie was the one who taught me that too. Well, Howie's taught me everything. So he was the one who said he would go to interviews and they would ask him and he would say, wow, you know, rah, 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 you know, and the standard stuff, the standard psychological psychobabble that you do, which is all true. It's all true and it's all fine. It's all stuff, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't land in the heart. It lands up here in the head somewhere and you understand it and you process it and it's all good and it goes along in your file of, you know, smart psychological things to do with people or something. But if you do a nurtured heart on somebody, and if it does land in their heart, I mean, you can't bullshit. You can't BS people. You have to be honest. You have to be honest with people. And you have to say, okay, what do I really see in this person in this 2 seconds I've been with them? And then you go with it. You trust that it'll work. Open your mouth and say something about what you really think. Don't process it all through your brain. What are you really seeing? What are you really seeing? And just describe it in detail. And it just hits people's hearts, and boom, you say, that's what it is.
Wow. Okay. I got some questions from a friend who has all adult children, and 3 of them are adopted and came with some, challenges
Sure.
built in. And so anyway, I was talking to her about you, and I said, hey, I'm going to be interviewing him. Do you have any questions you'd like asked? And so here are a few questions from a dear friend of mine. Do you think that you would have been able to do nurtured heart approach with an adult child who was abusive, diagnosed with narcissism or another personality disorder, or fully in addiction?
Yes. Yes, you can do it with anybody. Here's man, that's a tough portfolio. Because one of the things I've wrestled with is, will nurtured heart work on someone who's been clinically diagnosed with psychopathy? Okay, so what are the limits? What are the limits to nurtured heart? Is there a limit to it? So I've wrestled with it, and I don't know. So since I don't know, I believe that to whatever extent a person is made like we're all made, and we understand things like we all understand things, and we have hearts pretty much like everybody else, and that lots of things are defenses we learn along the way because that's what we need for survival. If I'm going to say that this doesn't have anything to do with a genetic thing that you cannot reach beyond. So if it's a normal person, I mean, normal in the sense that they're alive and cogent in some sense, I have to believe that since they need food and water and sunshine and stuff like the rest of us, I have to believe that depositing love in their heart has to be good for them. Does it mean that I can transform them, or anybody can transform them in a week or 2 weeks or a month? No, I have no idea on that. I have no idea. No idea. No idea. But what else can we offer? What else can we offer that's more powerful? So my stand was, yes, I would still be doing it. I'd still be doing it. I won't look for results. I mean, if a farmer goes out there and puts in a seed and goes out every week and pulls up the plant to see if there's anything under there, he's not going to have much of a harvest. You got to trust the process. You have to trust that you're doing it right. If you're doing this stuff right, the harvest will come, but the harvest comes in time. Don't focus on the harvest. Focus on being a good farmer today. That's all I think. And then let the results will be results. I don't know what the results will be. But I know that most of these diagnoses, most of these designations in terms of people are psychological designations, which many are culturally bound in terms of expectation. And I don't know how much of that. I mean, I just don't think that stuff's very reliable either. And I just think if thinking in those terms of, well, this guy's a narcissist, he's a this, he's that, or he's a something else, is the wrong approach to begin with. Now, he's a human being. He's a flawed human being, just like the rest of us. And we've got labels for him. But yeah, I think I don't know what effect it would produce, but it has to produce a better effect than anything else we do. Because we know what therapy is. Therapy means agent of change, right? So, and we know that therapy is powerful if you just sit and listen to a person. A person feels like he's been listened to. He feels like he's been seen. That's how most talk therapy works. So it has to be the case if you can proactively see the person without him necessarily thinking he's revealing himself to you. You're proactively priming the pump of his health. Because as he begins seeing himself in those terms, then that's the, I mean, somebody gave me the definition of depression. It's a perception that views everything with a negative spin. Well, so that's essentially what depression is. So, well, if you can view things differently because you have been given something, somebody sees you differently, and because they see you differently, you begin seeing yourself a little differently. So you have a slight change in your perception. That slight change in perception lets a little light in. It's got to be helpful. It's got to be helpful. Has to be. What else can you do? What else are we left with?
Yeah.
Nothing else is working.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I was I was talking to psychologist Elizabeth Sylvester. Do you know her? She's in the
No, no.
talking to her about this exact question the other day, and so much truth and beauty came out of that conversation as well, and just really resonates with what you've just put into words so beautifully. Okay, a related question. Is it possible to do NHA while setting clear boundaries around how one allows oneself to be treated by the other?
Yes.
Well, let's talk about stand 3 for a second with, and Elizabeth was saying to me just yesterday morning, so many people come to NHA because of the love. And NHA is not just stand 2. It's not just warm and fuzzy, lovey, 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 lovey. Although that is a big component of how we see people differently and how we see ourselves and the world differently. But let's talk about the, kind of, I was going to say harsher realities, although they're not harsher realities, but the practicality of stand 3.
Stand three is an interesting stand because it's an attempt, it's attempt at clarity, right? We're trying to get clarity. So we're drawing boundaries, and boundaries might be, I mean, again, we're talking different things between adults and kids. There are whole different sets of boundaries. They may be in kind or in expression, they may look very, very different. They may be actually the same in kind. It has a violation of the other person, a violation of behavioral norms, all these types of things, a violation of how relationships are supposed to work. But the responses are generally a little bit different. With kids, it's a little easier. I mean, it's no biting, no hitting, no kicking, no tearing down, no lighting the house on fire, that kind of stuff. But so those are easier to determine because you can easily see where the line's been crossed and stuff. So setting clarity is important for us because one of the things that we lose, or what I think that abuse comes down to in its most fundamental sense, is a violation of the other person's boundaries. And the necessary thing to do is to turn off all their alarm systems to get them so numb to their boundaries being violated that they no longer recognize the alarms of their boundaries being violated. So it's a violation of boundaries. So boundaries have to be there. There's no question. But it's how we respond to that I think matters. So I think that the idea that the thing that I have a tendency to do, and this is more with the kids thing. So when they are breaking a rule, you can point out the fact that no, the rule is blah, 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 blah. But for the most part, for me, it's you dial down the relationship. You just dial the relationship off. It's like they want your attention. So if you just dial that part of it off and dial it back up again as quickly as you possibly can. So it's people have a problem with Nurture Heart, not because of the boundary side. They have a problem with this because they like punishment. They think their job is to be the judge, and they want to be the person who brings punishment to the other person, because that's the only thing that balances the scales. They think, well, this was the offense, there has to be some kind of punishment for this. And you suggest that no. Discipline, raising a person in discipline is not punishment based, it's corrective based. You nudge here, you nudge there, you nudge a little bit. It's not punishment based. It has nothing to do with punishment. It has to do with letting them know this doesn't work, so we're going to correct them and go this way. So it requires an enormous amount of patience on the part of us. Huge amount of patience, huge ability not to be offended, huge ability not to think, well, I can't believe they're doing this. They're being disrespectful. Well, so what? So get over yourself. Why do you think you need so much respect all of a sudden? It's like, get over yourself. Your job is you're teaching them little by little how to be high functioning human beings. So what do? You treat them in a way that they are learning, you're correcting them, and you correct them by the withdrawal of energy and the application of energy, not the withdrawal of your hand and the application of your hand, or some silly other nonsense. Even Skinner, the whole guy who wants discovered stimulus and response. He says you cannot eradicate behavior. It's no good for exterminating behavior. Negative reinforcement does not exterminate behavior. You can use positive reinforcement to generate the behavior you want to see happen again, but negative reinforcement is lousy. So the idea that we feel like we need to, okay, this person did this and we need justice for you, mercy for me kind of thing. It's not good. It just doesn't work. So if you get out of that mindset to begin with, you say, no, that's not what discipline is. Discipline is, well, I'm a Christian, so I see it in terms of my relationship with God. God's never harsh with me. He's never rough with me. He never slaps me around. He never yells at me. He never raises his voice to me. Now, I don't know what other people's relationship with God are like, but that's my relationship with God. That's what the scripture seems to say to me. He corrects, he disciplines, he leads, he exhorts, he does all this kind of stuff, but none of it's harsh. None of it's harsh. So if you can find a place in stand 3 where, and I think I'm a big believer in everybody agreeing on stand 3. I mean, I agree with kids, especially. You say, okay, what are the rules in the classroom? Yes, Johnny. No hitting, right? No hitting. What else? No talking back, right? No talking back. No arguing with adults. We can discuss stuff. Anything's on the table to talk about, but we don't argue with each other, right? Right. Okay. So, the kids will give you all the rules. They know all the rules. Most people know all the rules, right? We know all the rules. So what we do is we withdraw energy. We note it. And we think, I know you know this. I know you know it. I know you know that I know it. I know that I know that you know that I know that you know that I know it. So let's get on with it. Why are we wasting our time with this? Come on, let's go. We got life in front of us. Let's go. So I think it's all about resetting. I think that everything is reset. And it's not finding a way to tell the kid, reset. I mean, I understand that. And that has to happen, particularly until you establish sort of the whole dynamic of it. And then once the dynamic's set up, the kids don't care about, then it's not a big problem to break. Of course you broke a rule. We all break rules all the time. What's the big deal there? Okay, let's get on with it. Okay, rule done. Okay, rule broken, rule done. We're off and running. I don't have to give you, I'm not sentencing you. I don't provide sentences. I just provide note. I noted that. Did you note that? Yes, you noted that. Was that a good idea? Nah, bad idea. Okay, off we go. Learning accomplished.
Wow. I want to be one of the kids in your after school program.
Oh, they drive me. I mean, they love me. The other volunteers, they just everybody wants 100% of my attention all the time. That's the hard part. It's like, okay, you get 100% of my attention now for 5 seconds. Now you get 100% of my attention for 5 seconds. You get and now I want to show you how to give this person 100% of your attention for 5 seconds. It's like herding cats all the time is what it is.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Okay.
a hoot. And if you can't get comfortable, if you want order, if you want quiet and order, what are you doing with kids? What do you think they are? They're total disorder. If you don't enjoy creative chaos, don't get around kids. Don't get around them. Don't burden them with your neurosis. You need to get over yourself. I just love the pandemonium. I love utter pandemonium around, because that's all this energy is going like crazy. And you can say, okay, I'm going to grab this piece of energy and we're going to learn from this and we're going to learn from this. And all the kids are bouncing off the walls. And I am just as bad with them. I am just as bad. I get into the play in exactly the same way. And then I push the envelope a lot further. We play restaurant or whatever we play. And I'm a horrible customer, and I'm always complaining about the food and all this kind of stuff. And I'm forced. It's a hoot. It's a riot. We have a ball. We have an absolute ball. It's fun.
Wow. Okay, so very practically, if
Yeah.
Rachel called you today and said, Dad, everything, I've lost my job and savings and through no fault of my own, and I need to move back in with you for the next 12 months. And, I don't want this to blow up our beautiful relationship, but I know that we live differently in our homes. And, what would the conversation look like more generically? But, would you sort of set down some stand 3 clarity ahead of time? Or would you just, live and love and reset?
Well, we live in love and reset because we're all adults now. We're all adults. But probably what I'd say, first of all, it doesn't take a year to turn your life around. You can turn around a heck of a lot faster than that. Let me help you do that. And in the meantime, I'll be glad to, lend you some money to get you over the hump and all that kind of stuff. But no, it's not good for you to live with me. It's not good for me to live with you. You're an adult. You need to be on your own. I need to be on my own and all this kind of stuff. I'll help you do all that. So the question is, does it work well enough that as adults living together, we could live together in peace? Yes, sure. If everybody understands what's the best way to say this? This is a side thing to nurtured heart. It develops a certain level of respect for one another. Because if you want to have a good relationship, one of the absolute requirements of that relationship is you admire the other person. If you don't have ways to admire the other person, you will disdain them. So Nurture Heart gives us this constant reminder of why that other person is great. At the same time, we recognize the only reason I can recognize the greatness in them is because to some degree, there's greatness in me. So same recognizes same, deep calls to deep, however you want to see that. So as I recognize it in you, I am recognizing in myself. So not only am I learning how to admire you, I'm learning how to admire myself. Not only are you learning how to admire yourself, you're learning how to admire me. And in the process of that, as that admiration and respect becomes the foundation of the relationship, then anything is possible. Anything is possible. Anything can be talked about. You can fight like brothers today. You can go out and fight like brothers today, and you can knock heads. And because I think people give up on the fighting way too soon. I'm not anti-fighting. I'm big. Have the fight. Have the damn fight. So they fold because they're afraid of big emotions. These are big emotions. So as soon as my emotions get big, I'm getting frightened. So no, you have to drive through those emotions until you get through to the other side. You have to drive through the emotions to find truth on the other side. So I'm a believer in big emotions and expressing big emotions and getting big emotions out. And through a nurtured heart experience, if you understand that big emotions are good, that's energy, that's big energy, that's all good. That's all good. We can sort this out. Is it going to be messy? Of course it's going to be messy. So what? Life is messy, So it doesn't matter that it's messy. What matters is we stay engaged. So through that engagement as adults and being able to go through that process and work it through to resolution, then you build relationship. And as you build relationship, you build trust and you build admiration and you build respect. And that what else is a relationship besides that? So that's what Nurture Heart helps you do. So the first thing it does is by recognizing the greatness in another person, there's this reflective thing that's going in both directions where you're recognizing each other's greatness. And that becomes the foundation for admiration, for respect, for trust, for all that other stuff. So.
Wow, thank you.
I would never suggest that adult children move back in with adult parents. I just don't think it's healthy. I just think it's generally not healthy. Can it be done? Sure. It can be done. Sure. But I want my life. I like my life. I like my independence. You like your independence, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now the opposite hypothetical scenario. Rachel calls you and says, I have to move to Europe for work. I'm going to be on the other side of the planet. I'm not going to see you for the next 12 months, hypothetically. What does NHA look like? You know, and in that case, I'm thinking mostly stand two, right? But anyway, what does NHA, what does your relationship look like as far as how you can continue to build her up from such a distance?
Well, it's still social media. I mean, the social media is there. I mean, we're talking like this, and I actually like the PM, the personal messages and stuff. And I kind of, Rachel has a tendency to get what's the word? Impatient with that, because she does all her sorting by talking. So she sorts by talk, and then we sort through all that stuff. I like personal messages. I like social media because I like short, pithy things that you send to somebody. And not only do they have a record of that then, but it takes time to think on that and type back. So I think that's a form of communication that's underrated. I really do. Because back in the old days, we used to write letters to one another, and that's a long form thing. But in this back and forth thing, even with taking the time to type, it takes you a little time, and you have to put your thinking into relatively bite-sized pieces, little nuggets, and then shoot them out. You can't just ramble. So I like that. So in terms of social communication online, I think it's very, very effective. Nurture's Heart is very effective online. And we see that in our groups. I mean, look at Brian. Look what Brian's doing with that group, you know? I mean, he's a genius. And he was one of the first guys I met in Nurture's Heart. And I thought, Brian, you're my hero. You're my hero. And because he was so good at that. And he's kept that group. And so there's all kinds of stuff you can do just without even this type of format, with just that form, a long distance format with just typing. So I don't think that would change anything at all. I would miss the face-to-face and stuff, but you know, there's nothing like face-to-face. It really is nice. But so tell me about your kids. So you have adult kids?
Oh, this is not about me, Michael. This is all about you.
It was worth a try.
We don't have time. We don't have time for that. Okay, I have a couple more questions. Okay, are there, what are the main strategies and approaches related to the application of NHA with adult children that are different from those used with younger children and teens?
Kids are easy. Kids respond so quickly. They respond so quickly. As we get older and older, you know, we have layers and layers of personas that we've acquired over time. So getting through those personas is a little bit trickier. So what you actually have to do is you have to notch it way up. Way up. It's not you don't back off because this person's putting up their defenses and stuff. You go for the juggler. You go for the juggler. And yeah, you just, so I'm a believer in more dramatic things when it comes to adults. Because the thing is, you've gone years now. Little kids, they get the good job and the pat on the back. Even the crummy affirmations are still more than most adults get on a regular basis. If you think about it, we treat kids, we treat kids with a certain level of kindness, generally speaking, a certain level of deference that we don't offer to adults. And most adults are dying to be seen, dying for recognition, dying for anybody. I mean, even these stupid these utterly ridiculous job performance. What do they do? Let's talk about what you don't do well. Oh, that's a good idea. Why don't we build on my strengths? No, we have to shore up your weaknesses. Why would you do that? It's like encouraging a squirrel to fly. Why? Why? Get them better at digging nuts. What's wrong with? But so nothing works. Nothing works that we're doing. We do everything backwards. The whole society's upside down. So yeah, so the adults they've got more defenses. They've got more barbed wire, that's the barbed wire. They're the funniest one. I mean, they're the ones who have the most barbed wire up, so you can't touch them at all. It's like they're hiding. They're hiding. It's so obvious they're hiding, and you just zoop, 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 zoop. You just jump into their heart, and it's like, ooh, it just works. You just notch this thing up and go for it. You go for the gusto. You just refuse. You just don't live in their world. In a sense, you don't play by their rules. You're playing by a whole different set of rules.
Yeah.
So yeah, I say notch it up. Go big. Go big.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah. I think that I loved your whoop, whoop, whoop. Right through the barbed wire into the heart. But I think that's exactly right. You really landed that one. Okay, here's a beautiful question. I love this question from the Facebook community when I posted a couple of hours ago that I was going to be doing this. Anne asks, did you have to find your own greatness first? And what did that look like?
I had to forgive myself. When it came to my relationship with Rachel, I had to come to terms with the fact that don't run from the obvious. The fruit will tell you what kind of tree you've been. So with the fruit of that relationship with Rachel, it was pretty clear who I was. So I had to forgive myself and all of that. But my identity, because a lot of what you're asking is, where do you stand in terms of your own identity? What kind of inner wealth do you have currently? Did you find your inner wealth through Nurtured Heart? And I didn't. I've been a very serious Bible reading Christian for 50 years. I found my inner wealth, my identity through the eyes of Jesus. So I didn't find my identity through Nurtured Heart. So no, I didn't have to find my own greatness in that. I had to recognize that my greatness came in much better pieces when I learned to wrap it in a certain level of a way that would reach somebody else. And it's not humility. That's not what it is. It's not humility. It's getting over the embarrassment of saying something really nice to somebody else. It's just hard to do. I'm a wise guy. I'm the master of the one line wise guy crack and stuff like that. And I have a tendency I can be really rugged on people because I think, oh, it's all just funny. I think it's funny. Well, you don't know what kind of damage you're doing in the process. So to turn all that off and to decide, you know what, I'm just going to see people in a way that I tell them how much I appreciate them and instead of being a wise guy and stuff like that. And that was a hard thing to learn. That was hard to learn.
That's beautiful. I love that. Okay, here's my last question. What is your favorite piece of music by Brahms and why?
Oh, yeah, I know you can't have a favorite piece of music by Brahms. It's like asking, what's your favorite dish or something. I like them all. I like the Brahms trio, obviously, because I play horn. So I performed that a few times. I like all his symphonies. I absolutely love his Requiem, his German Requiem. I absolutely love his German Requiem. Both of his piano concerti are terrific. I mean, how can you not like everything by Brahms? I mean, Brahms is just so good. He's just so good. He's so romantic. He's so passionate. That's the thing. I think, oh my God, this poor guy has embarrassed me. I feel like I have smoke after listening to this stuff. it's he's just so romantic and passionate. People say, "Oh no, he's he's mental. He's the last of the classical composers and stuff." I'm thinking, you don't think he's a romantic composer? My gosh. I mean, you have to learn his vocabulary. He does have a strange vocabulary. The man never stops. He has these little things that he spins and spins. Say, would you stop with the variations and just get back to a decent tune once in a while? But yeah, I played all his symphonies because I played an orchestra, so I played a lot of his music. So playing it from the inside, when you're in an orchestra and I don't know if you're familiar with Brahms, but Brahms third is it has this great horn piece. It's this beautiful horn solo that Santana stole, put it from 3 into 4 and turned it into a song. It's great. It was been on my bucket list forever and ever. And I got a call, said, "Hey, can you come and play principal on Brahms third?" I said, "When?" He said, "Well, we're performing on Tuesday." I said, "It's Saturday." He said, "Yeah, I know it's kind of short notice." So it turned out the principal horn in this orchestra couldn't do it, so I had to do it. So I thought, "Oh, this is on my bucket list. I've got to do it." So I had about a week, close to a week to prepare for it, and a big solo. It's everybody loves playing, but Annie was sitting up there, and I said, "I'm playing." I told the conductor, I said, "Look, I'm playing this for Annie. You can follow me or not follow me, but that's how I'm playing." And it was just like, I just poured out my heart and stuff and it was so much fun. I thought, "Oh, Brahms, you're killing me, man. You're killing me." Just shredding my heart. It was fun. But
Oh, what I love so much about your answer is that you just showed nurtured heart in action in a completely unrelated field. Your description of Brahms, your description of how he can frustrate other people, and you just see the beauty. I love that.
So you're a fan of Brahms, evidently.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm a fan of beautiful classical music. I was raised on beautiful classical music, but I'm not educated or aware enough, but anyway, I just loved how you answered that question. And I knew you would have a juicy little nugget for us in kind of an unrelated question.
Telling me stop, please.
Well, Michael, I feel like we could go on forever and ever and ever. And now I want to book a flight to Pittsburgh so we can go out to dinner and just keep talking.
Ooh, fun.
I know. Wouldn't that be so fun? Or Portland. I know.
I'm so proud of what you're doing. I see you always posting like what you have that the
the strength training.
the strength training. I love it. It's perfect. It's a perfect metaphor. It's a perfect metaphor. Perfect.
Yeah.
And you're posting all the stuff. You're out there running around. You're changing the world where you're at. It's great. It's great. You're just very, very impressive. Very impressive, Bridget.
Wow.
Very impressive.
Thank you. I'm just, like you said, I'm just an evangelist at heart. I fall in love with something, and that's just I feel like how's the expression? Ask forgiveness rather than permission. I cannot stop myself sometimes from just going and sharing and loving and fumbling and
Be the bread. Don't share the bed. Be the bread. Be the bread. That's all we are. I mean, that's all we are. It's not a matter of sharing information. Information, you can buy it everywhere. You can get all kinds of. It's not sharing information. It's sharing your heart. It's sharing your life. It's sharing your spirit. It's pouring yourself into another person. And all Nurtured Heart does is it gives us the tools to do that. We have the methodology that we can do that now. We want to do it. I mean, most people are pretty decent people. We want to do it, but we don't know how to do it. Nurtured Heart gives us the method to do it. From my point of view. So.
There it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
And sadly, I have to run. I would actually just
Okay.
kind of keep going, but I've got to get a kid to an orthodontist
Look.
appointment. So
Oh,
this filled me up in such a powerful way. I feel like I'm about to burst into tears and I'm going to try to refrain, but I just want to thank you from the top and the bottom of my heart, all of it. I'm really grateful for just what you're doing in the world and what you just shared with me. And I know the multitude of people who are going to want to listen and
keep
watch.
doing what you're doing. You're an inspiration, Bridget. Keep doing what you're doing.
Well, I get inspiration from people like you, Michael. So
That's how it's supposed to work.
thank
As
you.
I from you. And that's how it works. That's why it works so well.
Oh gosh. Okay. I
Hey,
love you, man. Thank you so much for this. All right.
thank
I
you.
will see you on the other side. I can't wait to
Hey.
talk to you more. And maybe we'll do this again and I'll answer one or two of your questions.
Thank you. I'm entitled. That's right. I want to know about you.
You did. You earned a few answers. All right.
All right,
Do
cool.
it again soon. Thanks, Michael.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.